Hey everybody, I want to welcome everyone back. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. This is our weekly betting segment, Bookends. I'm here with Jason McCormick, Chuck Esposito here at Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook. As we talked about last week, it was a great weekend of sports. You had some huge games on Thanksgiving where all three favorites got there. You had some great games on Friday. And of course, the weekend in college football was unbelievable. And then Friday you had the match too, which between Tiger and Phil, great crowd, great atmosphere. We had it on a big screen in all of our racing sports books with audio. A lot of people talking about it, a lot of bets. It was just another exciting component to this weekend, but I think nothing bigger than what went on in college football this weekend, Jason.
Yeah, college football, again, a huge weekend with the Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Great weekend for the bettors. We talked about it last week, started out in the pros on Thursday. All three favorites cover in the pro football games. Thursday was a great day for the betting public, as it has been several Thanksgivings in a row. So again, look ahead to next Thanksgiving, and remember that the favorites tend to come in on Thanksgiving
You
Day.
want that Black Friday money, you got to go out there and just bet the favorites on Thanksgiving.
Huge games on Friday in college football. We saw West Virginia lose to Oklahoma. Oklahoma knock off West Virginia in a 59-56 game. That'll set up Oklahoma this week against Texas for a chance to win the Big 12 and potentially go further than that. Huge game in the Pac-12 as Washington went into Washington State in a rainstorm, snowstorm, was able to knock off Washington State, which was a heavily bet Washington State game on Friday night. Ended up being a good game for the books. And then on Saturday, Notre Dame, USC. Notre Dame opened a 9-point favorite against the Trojans. Got down early, were able to come back, take a 14-point lead, and the Trojans got to book that backdoor touchdown with about a minute to go. Probably the biggest game of the year in college football so far. As we said, that game moved 5 points, so it was a big cover for the Trojans to kill a lot of the tickets that were out there. And then on Saturday, we kind of saw the teams do what they were supposed to do with the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Clemsons all rolled and did what they were supposed to do. So sets up an interesting this week in college football, but pro football, obviously Thursday, but the rest of the pro football week, what did you see?
Yeah, I thought it was an exciting pro football week. From our side of the counter, of course. I mean, it came Sunday, and we were rooting for the Raiders, the Jets, and the Cardinals, and unfortunately didn't get there in any of the three games, and looked like we might get there in all three at one point during the day. The Cardinals had a 10-0 lead. The Jets were very competitive. The Raiders were right in it late. Those three games were really good games for the bettors, though. They did really well in those games. For our side of the counter, though, of course, late, we really needed Denver to pull out a win. They were able to beat the Steelers in that game. We needed the Dolphins to cover against the Colts. They got there as well. So great crowd, great atmosphere. They've been at some great games this weekend after Thanksgiving. You had a much smaller schedule. You had a pretty good game last night with Packers and Vikings. Not sure what's wrong with this Packer team. They haven't won a road game this year. They had opportunities to get back into that game. Just a lot of turnovers, bad mistakes. They just don't look like the same team right now. They're really behind the 8 ball, behind Chicago and Minnesota, not only in the division, but as far as the wild card goes too, with that loss to Carolina. As we look forward to this week, though, I think nothing is bigger in college football than championship week, and there are some marquee matchups to focus on.
Yeah, great matchups in college football. I think probably the two key games as we look towards the college football playoff. Obviously, you talk about Alabama, Georgia. Alabama's the #1 seed. Even if Georgia was to knock them off, the likelihood that Alabama still stays in that top 4 from an SEC championship. Georgia, this is probably their playoff game. If they lose here, the likelihood that they fall out of that top 4 is very likely. But I think the two big games...
It's a shame, though, because they are a really good team. Their 2 losses would have been then to LSU and to Alabama.
Right.
If they're really competitive in this game and say they lose by 1 or 2, it's a shame that they won't be in it. But you're right, there's some other schools that probably will get that 4th nod over Georgia.
Yeah, Clemson sitting in the 2-hole. They're a 26-point favorite over Pitt. I think that line's kind of inflated because Pitt didn't look very good against Miami and Florida. But again, they knew they had nothing to play for down in Miami. Miami's playing for a bowl game. So I think you have to kind of throw that game out for Pitt. Maybe they're really looking ahead to Clemson. But Clemson's sitting in that 2-hole pretty comfortably. Notre Dame in the 3. They don't play this week. They got their win over USC. They're sitting on a perfect season. You can't cut them out. So the real question is who gets in there in that 4 spot. Right now, with Michigan losing to Ohio State and the impressive win from Ohio State last week, that's between Oklahoma and Ohio State. Oklahoma's a 7-point favorite, 7.5-point favorite over Texas. Ohio State, a 14.5-point favorite over Northwestern. Both of those teams are going to have to state their case to get into that 4 spot. So look for both of those teams to get a big win. Ohio State They struggled against Northwestern. I believe they beat them by 20-17 in Northwestern early in the season. But this is a big chance for Ohio State to put up a big number, impress those pollsters, impress the voters, try and get themselves in that 4-hole. And Oklahoma looking at a revenge game. They lost to Texas early in the season, so they've got a chance to pull up revenge and secure that 4 spot to them. So a great slate on the college football standpoint, which will shape up both the college football playoff and a lot of the bowl games. So important to watch this week to see where these teams end up from a playoff standpoint and what bowl games they go into. But again, the pro slate this week, not the marquee games. We've got a couple good games and a whole lot of ugliness.
There are some big number games. But real quick on college, though, I think when you look at Ohio State, when they take the field against Northwestern on Saturday night, they're already going to know what Oklahoma did, if Oklahoma was convincing in that win or not. We discussed it a lot off air, is who should be that number 4 team if they both win. Personally, I think it's Ohio State. I think with that signature win against Michigan, and as good as Michigan was, and all the chatter, and Michigan being in that number 3 hole, best defense in the country, the way Ohio State beat them was just so impressive. I didn't think that, I thought they could win, but not the way that they won. I think that's a statement win. I think if both Oklahoma and Ohio State win, I think Ohio State should be that 4th team. I know we debated it. It'll be interesting to see what the committee decides if they both win, but I think that's what's great about it. As far as the pros go, the 3 TV games or primetime games this week are really good. You look at the Thursday night game between the Saints and the Cowboys. The Cowboys are red hot right now since they got Amari Cooper, but you look at the Saints, who the bettors love. They're a little bit above that touchdown right now. Maybe there's some value on the Cowboys. I think that's a really competitive matchup. Both teams played last Thursday. The Sunday night game, which was flexed between the San Diego Chargers and Pittsburgh Steelers, is a really good game. The Chargers will be without Melvin Gordon, although Eckler's a really good backup. He'll be in that game. And then the Monday night game between the Washington Redskins and Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles sit at 5-6 right now, but I still think that's an Eagle team that can win that division. As bad as they've looked, the Cowboys play the Saints on Thursday night. If the Cowboys get beat and the Redskins lose that game on Monday night to the Philadelphia Eagles, guess what, guys? They're all 6-6. I make the Cowboys then an underdog against the Eagles. I think the Eagles can easily win that division if it all plays out that way. There's some big number games this week too. From our side of the counter, we're going to need some of those underdogs. There's about 3 or 4 double-digit, 2-touchdown favorites that we're going to be rooting against this week, but that's part of it. And this late in the season, you've got teams that are playing for wild card spots, jockeying for position, and a lot of teams that are already out of it.
Yeah, you talk about the public playing on the teams that are playing well and been flooded with Saints money every week. Anticipate more Saints money on Thursday night against the Cowboys, but they're not only betting on the teams that are winning games, they're betting on the teams that are losing games.
Teams, right.
They're betting against the Raiders, they're betting against the Cardinals, they're betting against the Jets. And this week we've got a brutal spot with the Raiders are hosting the Chiefs. They're 15-point underdogs. That's, again, good against bad.
Packers are hosting the Cardinals.
Packers against the Cardinals. The Cardinals, again, 12-point underdog to the Chargers, goes to 14. The public loves the Chargers in the game. Arizona jumps out with a 10-point lead and then forgot to play the rest of the game.
42 straight points they gave up.
Now they have to travel to Green Bay, most likely playing in the cold against, you just said Green Bay hasn't won a road game, but they've been dominant at home. And they're not out of things. I mean,
they're not.
The bad loss in Seattle.
4-6-1, but I think they're still in it. And speaking of Seattle, there's no team that's hotter than Seattle right now. Over the last 3 weeks, they've got victories against Green Bay and against Carolina. And you talk about rooting for an underdog. We're going to need San Francisco 49ers in that game. They travel to Seattle. They're right under a double-digit underdog. So that's another dog we're going to be rooting for. But it's not just about football. You've got basketball, hockey, college basketball. The Knights are playing a little bit better. We know it's a busy time of year for everyone. We love when you guys come in and enjoy everything we have to offer and the atmosphere in our race and sportsbook. But if you can't get here, I know we hammer it home every single week. There's STN Mobile.
STN Mobile. Sign up. We still have the 10% bonus on your deposit amount. We still got the Play Plus cards where you can deposit, withdraw from the seat of your couch. Don't have to come into the book to deposit. We did have Last Man Standing, just another point. Our Last Man Standing college in both college and pro. Our pro, we had a single winner of the Last Man Standing contest. We had 3 people going into this week. We had a contestant take the Redskins who went down. We had a contestant take the Dolphins who went down. And
actually took the Colts. The Dolphins covered it.
Took the Colts, and but strangely enough, the Patriots end up being the team that gets the guy to cash on the last.
Not very strange there, but against the Jets.
And our college, we had 2 guys left in college. Unfortunately, they both lost this week, but they'll end up splitting the college last man standing money. So again, look for that contest next year, as well as we head into March Madness, we'll have the March Madness last man standing contest.
Yep, I think it's a great contest, and it was fun having to go down to this week where you looked at the guys who 2 of them had the loser, and then the guy with the Patriots. He was definitely smiling, that's for sure. So thanks again, gang. Good luck this weekend. Remember, come down, enjoy everything we have to offer. There's some great games for championship week, great primetime games. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, good luck, and we'll see you next week on Bookends.